Welcome to the LeadHer Shift podcast. This is what I like to call a safe space. A space for bold women building their power, presence, and purpose from the inside out. A space where we explore what it means to lead with clarity, courage, and conviction. So wherever you are in the world, hey, I'm your host, Alian Ollivierre, and I am super honored that you're tuning in today. Now, today I want to share something deeply personal. I'll share and delve into a few of my defining moments over the last particularly 5 years, and a little bit about how the LeadHer Shift was birthed. And I really feel a sense of urgency to share my gift with all of you. So this episode is not just the start of a new season. It's the reconnection with everyone who has been listening. It's a reckoning. And more than that, it's really a revival. It's the beginning of a new era. An era shaped by alignment, authenticity, and inner power. Honestly, it's really the story behind my shift. And maybe, I don't know, it mirrors yours. She always knew she had something to say. And for a while she did. She stood up. She spoke. She even created spaces where others could stand up and speak too. But every time she entered a room, she shrank. She hesitated. Just a little. Just enough not to take up too much space. She didn't want to be too loud or even too noticeable. I know this woman very, very well because I was her. I had the title, I had the degrees from the law to my master's in international relations. I had the experience from corporate to the United Nations. I had the receipts, the projects I completed, all the tasks that worked really well and built that level of credibility. But my voice, it didn't feel fully mine yet. This was still something missing. And sometimes, even when I said the right things, or so I thought, I'd still walk away second guessing myself. You imagine you're saying the right things, sometimes at the right time, in the right moments, with the right audience. But then you walk away and you replay every conversation, every response, every decision you made, every hesitation, every facial expression that occurred in every moment. And I will never forget, I vividly remember one evening leaving a meeting with some of my colleagues at the United Nations. And it was that moment where we had a powerful meeting. It was about a particular project that we were about to execute. And yet, in the meeting itself, I didn't want to ask the kind of questions to bring alarm to some of the challenges or the risks that might happen as part of this project. And I said nothing. I wasn't as bold as I thought I was being. I asked some questions, but just enough. Just enough questions to be seen as having an input into the project. Just enough input that it didn't feel like I was just cruising through the meeting, right? But then, leaving the meeting, I kind of started to beat myself up, if I'm honest. And started to say to myself, well, why didn't you say this? This would have been an important point to make at this point. Because what if this occurs as a result of you not saying this? And it wasn't about my capability or even me needing more credentials. It was about capacity. I wasn't giving myself the inner permission to hold space. I hadn't given myself that permission. You see? So now, let's track back to 5 years ago. It's 2020. We just all rang in a brand new decade. We celebrated. It was that moment of a new that everyone really focused in on during the beginning stages, right? Then everything changed. When the world shut down, so did I. So did the version of me I had spent years carefully building, especially in my profession. And at the same time, I had a new chapter. A new chapter in the book and in my journey had opened. I became a mother. And it's so beautiful to say that out loud. Motherhood was and still is beautiful. My pregnancy was smooth. I always tell others I would be pregnant consistently because my pregnancy was great. The delivery experience, however, was an experience. If you know, you know. And I was so full of joy. Love. My heart was is the biggest I feel like I've ever felt my heart feeling. My heart was filled with new meaning of what life was about. Honestly, a lot of shifts happened as a result of just that birthing experience. But it also brought grief. The kind of grief that I don't think we really as women are prepared for. No one tells us about. And there are no conversations, communities, at least that I know of, where this level of grief is shared. The kind where you lose yourself quietly in a lonely, dark mindset space. Honestly, where although there have been a millions of people who have gone through these same experiences, you still feel super isolated and alone. Right? I honestly remember maybe 2 days or so. Oh, no, it was the evening we brought home our daughter. Or rather the evening when the doctor said, okay, everything looks fine, mommy's good, all vitals are clear, baby is fine to go, you are released from the hospital. And I feel like in that moment, my heart was like, well, so the nurses are coming with us? This is my first time being a mother. Like, what do you mean? Like, you want me to leave after 2 days? Like, I don't understand. And it was the moment getting home that really stood out, because in that quiet moment, I laid my daughter down and I watched her sleeping, and I sat on the bed still in pain, still a lot of worry, still a lot of things going on in my head. And all I could think is like, so no one is coming to save us. Like, we are in this together. Like, just remember, right? But in those moments, it was feeling like, I don't know who I am. I know I am a mother. I just gave birth. Like, that's what the world tells me my title looks like. But am I? Or, what kind of leader am I now? Like, what am I supposed to do? I have an entire small human here that I have to pay close attention to. Make sure she's sleeping well. Make sure she gets up. Make sure she's fed. Make sure she's clean. And the list goes on. And then I sit and I wonder, but am I still a leader if I don't recognize who I am anymore? That was a serious question I had to ask myself. And at the same time, silly upon looking back, you know? I didn't expect how much I would lose pieces of who I was, quite honestly. There was even that like quiet erosion of my ambition. Like I feel like I lost all sights of ambition. Ambition? That is wild. Like I no longer cared to push, you know? And success for me, if I'm honest, was just being able to take a daily shower. Again, if you know, you know, you know? So it's those moments like the Zoom calls on mute, the long days of diapers, baby crying, you know, this small being needing you, mommy, for food, comfort, nourishment, love, care, attention. You have to teach, you have to clean. You is a being that is literally helpless, needing everything out of you that you don't even feel like you have to give. And don't talk about the doubt. And slowly I began to drift from the woman I was. I was actually no longer the woman I was, but of course, in those moments, I didn't recognize it. I wasn't quite sure of myself anymore. And I really, in those moments, truthfully felt unworthy. But what I thought was losing my passion upon hindsight was actually a massive overhaul and realignment. Because I started over time to rebuild piece by piece. And what I thought was loss was actually a clearing. Is, you know, when you think about it, you know, there's all this bush. If you know, you know. If you live in a island, you know there's all this bush, right? And you're trying to change a cart road into a paved road. But you gotta do the clearing first, right? In order to see the other side, in order to know if this is the path that could be paved. And that's essentially what it kind of was for me. And instead of trying to become who I used to be, I had to ask myself, who am I becoming? Who am I becoming now? Because I couldn't identify with past Alian. And at the same time, the road wasn't clear enough for me to understand who the future Alian was either. So there was a lot of uncertainty. And while having that uncertainty, I had to also begin honoring my roles, my separate roles. So at first, I had to separate wife from mother, from daughter, from boss, right? From manager and leader. I had to separate those roles to start to debush my mind in a way, right? And somewhere in the process of doing that, something new began to emerge. I was stronger. I am more grounded now. There's a version of myself that is more spiritual. My faith holds me closer than it ever did before. I'm way more intentional, way more confident, more connected to what really matters. I even started a podcast in 2020. That's when the LeadHer Shift was born. And at first, it was just a podcast. Just a space to share thoughts. Just a space to hear perspectives. And now I realize, looking back, it was really a declaration. It was really a declaration. Me reclaiming my leadership was utilized in the form of the creation of the podcast. And at the time, I didn't even know it was part of my own alignment. But now I see it extremely clearly. It was the beginning of something way deeper for me. Because after recording the first episode, I honestly I never felt so alive. So let me start with the fact that I was, for the first time in quite some time, I was having real and meaningful adult conversations, right? And aside from that, it really felt like a moment of relief. I felt so comfortable sharing perspectives, asking questions, hearing thoughts from leaders all around the world, and even sharing new perspectives that help to frame what the LeadHer Shift really was all about. So without fully realizing it, to be quite honest with you, a framework for the LeadHer Shift was created. That was the shift. So from inner awareness to outer authority, that realization changed everything for me. Everything. Because in those moments of filming and in those moments of connecting, I realized that if I don't understand who I am inwardly, I can't portray and really exude what I want outwardly. Because for me, I discovered that inner awareness is knowing your worth before the world validates it. It's about knowing who you are long before the world claps for you. It's listening to the truth of your story. And note I said the truth, not what is true, but what is the truth. And letting that truth lead you. Right? If you don't understand your strengths and your values, your inner awareness is weak. And it's being clear about who you are before anyone else. It starts basically with you. And if you want to show up authentically or in an authentic way, in any way, shape, or form, you kind of have no choice but to discover your inner awareness. But once you do, the outer authority just exists. That's when leadership becomes felt. Not the title, not the dictating to, not the ordering of. The leadership that others feel is truly felt. Felt. Your presence is felt. Your values are felt. The strength that others would like to embody as a leader is felt from you because you are clear, you are focused, and you are absolutely understanding of who you are and what your worth is. And outer authority is what happens when the inner work shows up publicly. It shows up publicly. Because once you start to exist in your inner self, it kind of exudes on its own. You don't even have to say anything. When your presence speaks before you do, that's when you know. But also, is when the room shifts when you speak. Is the influence that isn't forced. is just embodied. You don't have to force your influence. When you lead with grace and hold space for others and influence without authority, your outer authority is just doing what it's supposed to do. And believe you me, the shift is real. From invisible to impactful, from qualified to commanding, from performing confidence to owning it. Most persons out here are performing confidence. They're performative. They're doing the things you think confidence looks like and not truly owning what confidence is for them. This is the formula I now teach because it's the one I had to live through, quite honestly. It was in 2024 when I realized my presence is being felt and I'm not even in the room. When my team held an event and from start to finish, they showed up. They showed up and they delivered. So much so, I wasn't in the room. My son was just born. My second child was just born. And the event was like 2 months after that. A month after I gave birth. And in those moments, I realized that it was a moment that surprised even me about my outer authority showing up, even when I wasn't in the room. Because my team delivered to the point where others even felt I had a hand in it and I didn't. I may have guided, I may have supported, I may have answered questions, but my team did the thing. And that in itself showed me how powerful influence can truly be when you are very clear about yourself, so much so that your team starts to embody a lot of those things. So listen, you see, this season, I want to bring you into rooms filled with powerful women who've done their own shifting, both in life and leadership. You will hear from leaders, founders, creatives, women just like you, navigating identity shifts, visibility shifts, and even legacy. You'll get strategies to move from performing leadership to embodying it, because we don't want performative actions no longer. We'll talk mindset, we'll talk identity, visibility, we'll even talk about power and what the true meaning of power is. And I'll be here in between these conversations with women, sharing tools, truths, and reminding you of your power. Because it doesn't start outside of you. It starts within you. It begins with inner clarity, inner conviction, and inner shifts. And I'm extremely excited for this next season and this next chapter in your life. You may not know it yet, but your LeadHer Shift is happening as I speak. Now, this episode is just for you, because you are the woman who may be confused about your ambition. You may be the woman who is having a defining moment right now, but you aren't aware of it. You may be the woman who think you're confident, but there's a lot of doubting questions you ask yourself. What if you have a lot of questions that is currently shifting your mindset or having it remain stagnant? You have a network around you, but maybe it's not the best network that could help you to be your best and most authentic self. I want you to keep listening in. The LeadHer Shift is to help you to determine what that authenticity is going to look like. It's to help you lead your best life and lead in any space and room you enter. This is for you. Now, if this episode spoke to you, share it. Don't keep it a secret. Don't gatekeep. Send it to that woman who you know needs to hear. You are not alone. And your leadership still matters. I'll repeat that. You are not alone. And your leadership matters. And wherever you listen, please subscribe to the LeadHer Shift podcast, or head on over to our website, theleadhershift.com, to connect with us there. This movement is about more than just leadership. It's about building something better. I'd love to hear your story, because your voice matters, because the world is ready for your authority. The question is, are you?